Hello, Tony, your deck architect here, back on my channel once more with another deck profile. So initially for the next deck profile, I had wanted to take a dig at Emancipator, but while trying to unearth a playable strategy, these miners actually unearthed the last vestiges of my organization skills to promptly remind me that last week was the release of the Cyber Style Structure deck. So, diverting from our planned path, today we will be exploring another GX classic. Representing both the best of GX's aesthetic design and the worst of GX's card design, ladies and gentlemen, join me as we take a hard look at the Cyberdarks. So what are the Cyberdarks? Released back in 2006 in the aptly named core set Cyberdark Impact, the Cyberdarks were a series of dark machine type monsters loosely related to the Cyber Dragon archetype. Played by the GX character Zane Truesdale after his edgy rebirth in Season 2, the Cyberdarks aim to play an aggressive beatdown strategy by equipping dragon type monsters to themselves to gain power. Sadly, despite working with perhaps one of the sickest concepts to date, the Cyberdarks were a nigh unplayable mess. Severely underpowered even by GX standards and marred by very little support, the Cyberdarks were widely regarded as one of GX's greatest failures in card design. It wouldn't be until the first legendary Duels set that Cyberdarks would receive any form of support in 4 new cards. By this point, however, the archetype had already begun to age as badly as Rust, and nothing outside of a Spellbook of Judgment level card could save them from relative obscurity. And that brings us to today, where thanks to an OCG poll, the Cyberdarks have once again received another wave of support in the new structure deck, Cyber Style Successor. This structure deck, much like its predecessor in the Sacred Beast structure deck, aims to finally make the archetype playable despite its severe lack of power and consistency. And that is something we take great interest in. See, one of the glorious things about Legacy support is that it's always made relative to the power level of the current era, with a goal being to support older cards such that they can contend with modern ones. But, as we mentioned before, to make Cyberdarks relevant in this day and age would require nothing less than cards of Spellbook of Judgment levels of unfettered power. And that's exactly what they did. Gifted with a plethora of new cards overloaded with effects that no modern archetype should ever be given, the Cyberdarks continue to leverage their equip-based strategy but with improved functionality all around. And that is something I hope to explore further as I delve into the deck profile. Anyway, I've droned on enough. Without a further ado, let's get into the deck profile. To start things off, we begin by introducing the original Cyberdark lineup released in Cyberdark Impact, consisting of 3 Cyberdark Edge, 1 Cyberdark Horn, and 1 Cyberdark Keel. Each of these monsters share a common effect in that, when normal summoned, they can target and equip 1 level 3 or lower dragon type monster in your graveyard. In doing so, these monsters gain the attack of that dragon, and can send that dragon to the graveyard to protect themselves from being destroyed by battle. Now in theory, this effect sounds pretty solid. By equipping any dragon target with at least 1500 points of attack, this deck casually produces a 2300 beater with built-in battle protection for as cheap as a basic normal summon. This inexpensive front allows the Cyberdarks to quickly build up boards of simple beaters to apply early pressure and tip tempo in its favor. In reality though, this effect is incredibly impractical. Because each Cyberdark monster only gets to equip on normal summon, this essentially limits the amount of aggression you could put out to 1 monster per turn, something that was way too slow even in 2006. And because the effect only triggers at the time of normal summon and no time else, it also means that once that dragon gets sent to protect your Cyberdark monster, that Cyberdark becomes a weak 800 attack body that is a liability to your board. Likewise, because the Cyberdarks can only equip level 3 or lower dragons in your graveyard, it limits your options to a few niche monsters, many of which need additional setup to even get into the graveyard to be able to be equipped. I bring this comparison up because it's these core concepts that the rest of the deck is built upon. From henceforth, every other support card for this deck will either be a card dedicated to maximizing the listed benefits or mitigating the listed detriments. In many ways, this deck's ability to win will be decided by how you can work with this equip strategy to set up future plays. with many games being won or lost when the wrong monster is equipped or the wrong Cyberdark is used. Now on top of this shared effect, all the original Cyberdarks have an additional effect unique to it. Edge can attack directly, but in doing so halves the damage it deals. Horn can deal piercing damage, and Keel, upon running something over by battle, can deal a whopping 300 points of damage to your opponent. To be perfectly clear, these effects are not extremely impactful, but the order of their minimal impact does decide the ratios of which we play these three. While Horn and Keel's effects will rarely ever come up, Edge's effect is a little more relevant. See, among the dragon equip options we play, a fair number of them apply additional effects when your Cyberdarks battle. This means that to get these effects off, you are encouraged to attack with your Cyberdark monsters. At times, this means that you may have to run your Cyberdarks into a larger monster, and while you can at least protect your Cyberdarks from being destroyed in that battle, that isn't exactly optimal, as that play leaves you with an unprotected 800 body. Edge, by virtue of being able to attack directly, will always have an attack target that it can go into safely, making it the most practical of the three original Cyberdark monsters. At best, the halve damage could take games, but at worst it at least allows you to progress your game plan with the equipped effects. Moving forward a few years, we have the Cyberdark monsters introduced in Legendary Duelist, consisting of 3 Cyberdark Cannon and 3 Cyberdark Claw. Both of these monsters are level 3 dragon type monsters, making them perfect targets to be equipped from your graveyard by your original Cyberdark monsters. How do we get them into the graveyard though? Well, fortunately, both of these monsters share a similar effect in that both can discard themselves from your hand to add a specific kind of Cyberdark card from your deck. Cannon can discard itself to add a machine type Cyberdark monster, while Claw can discard itself to add a Cyberdark spell or trap card. On top of the aforementioned benefit of putting themselves into the graveyard, both of these effects are great boons for the Cyberdark deck, who previously lacked any form of built-in consistency. Cannon can grab you into any of your original Cyberdark monsters, effectively setting you up for a basic normal summon to equip play. Claw, on the other hand, gives you access to your Cyberdark support, many of which can provide protection or further consistency for the deck to help it set up its future plays. On top of the search effect, both of these monsters also have additional effects while they are equipped by your Cyberdark monsters. At the start of the damage step in which a Cyberdark monster equipped with either monster battles, Cannon can send one monster from your deck to the graveyard, while Claw can send one monster from your extra deck to the graveyard. Both of these effects are pretty powerful in their utility, as both have no restriction of what you can send from either decks. Cannon, while able to send cards like Farfa or Shaddoll Dragon to the graveyard to generate advantage with their graveyard effects, will mostly be used in this deck to send more Cyberdark monsters to load up your graveyard with more options. Claw, on the other hand, will be used exclusively to send monsters from your X deck that have graveyard effects to generate advantage. Like a card like the Dear Servant, you can use Claw to send powerful options like Antithesis for removal or Cologne for searching. Alternatively, you can also use it to send a large monster like our Cyber End Dragon, of which our X-Deck monsters can make use of. Finally, both Cannon and Claw have a third effect in which if they are sent to the graveyard while equipped to a monster, they can regenerate some advantage. When sent, Cannon will draw you a card, while Claw will add you back one Cyberdark monster in your graveyard, which can include itself. Both of these effects trigger when they are sent by the protection effects of your original Cyberdark monsters, which can somewhat mitigate the liability of leaving a dead Cyberdark monster on the field thereafter. Then, ending off the Cyberdark monsters with the one to come out in the structure deck, we have the one Cyberdark Chimera. Chimera is a peculiar card. Instead of equipping dragons, Cyberdark Chimera can discard a spell or trap to add Power Bond from the deck to your hand. In doing this, Cyberdark Chimera also ensures that if you were to fusion summon this turn, you may also banish materials from the graveyard as well. While this effect can lead to some very powerful pushes when it comes to summoning out some of your X-Deck monsters for absolutely free at double the attack, the real meat of this card comes in its second effect. When sent to the graveyard, Cyberdark Chimera can send a Cyberdark monster from your deck to the graveyard so long as that sent monster does not already exist in the graveyard. This effect is useful for a number of reasons. The first is relative to its first effect. By sending this card to the graveyard beforehand, Cyberdark Chimera can load up the graveyard with an additional Cyberdark monster to be used for your fusion summon. Inversely, if you were to choose to fuse with Cyberdark Chimera directly from the field to make something like your Cyber Darkness Dragon, you can use its effect to send a Cyberdark monster from your deck to the graveyard that you would want equipped by your dragon. Conveniently, Cyberdark Chimera is also 800 attack points, which means it can be linked away to make an Almirage, giving this card a very easy outlet to proc its second effect. Moving on to the off-theme support, we have our 2 Armored Cybern. Armored Cybern is a level 3 dragon type monster, which means it can be equipped by our original Cyberdark monsters. While a monster is equipping Armored Cybern, that monster gains an additional 600 attack points. Combined with the Cyberdark's own attacking effect, equipping Armored Cybern puts our Cyberdarks at a massive 3000 attack points, which is more than enough to contend with even modern boss monsters. Furthermore, even without the Cyberdark effect, Armored Cybern can naturally target a cyber monster and equip itself from the hand or field to it. Unfortunately, because the Cyberdarks only interact with the monster they equip by their own effect, equipping Armored Cybern to any of them does nothing outside of giving them an additional 600 attack points. However, it does provide an additional equip to a monster on the field, which our Cyber Darkness Dragon can make more active use of. Finally, if Armored Cybern would be sent to the graveyard while equipped to a monster, it can special summon one cyber monster from our graveyard. In the context of a Cyberdark deck, this effect is not super useful, considering that none of our Cyberdarks do anything on special summon. However, it's important to note that this effect can bring back our X deck monsters as well, which can sometimes lead to huge tempo swings when you bring back a Cyber Darkness Dragon or our Cyberdark End Dragon. But the real importance of this card has nothing to do with its effects but in its name. For you see, Armored Cybern is a light cyber monster. One of the cards we play in our Cyberdark Horizon requires that we play 2 cyber monsters of different attributes, of which our Cyberdarks are the darks and the Armored Cybern is our light. While we can play options like Cyber Dragon Core or just Cyber Dragon, Armored Cybern is the only monster that naturally synergizes with the Cyberdark strategy, thus making this our ideal option to play if we want to play Horizon. Finally, finishing the monsters off, we have the 1 Lich the Golden Lord. Golden Lord's inclusion in this deck is twofold. The first is that it's a monster we can send off of our cannon to have a consistently recurring body. Because Golden Lord can send spells and traps to summon itself to the field, you can always send a Cyberdark equipped monster to the graveyard to bring it out. This in turn also triggers that monster's effects when sent to generate additional advantage. This itself can be very important as cards like our Claw's Recursion are very important in allowing us to further our board state, so being able to proactively trigger that effect instead of reactively can work well in our favor. The other reason for Golden Lord's inclusion is that he acts as a way to put massive damage on the field. Because of how slow our aggression can be, it can be very hard to actually end games with this deck. Golden Lord provides us a free 3500 beater to up our damage threshold, which hopefully allows us to end games much faster to ensure our opponent doesn't out us in ensuing turns. Moving into the spells, we start with consistency, beginning with our 3 Cyberdark Realm. Cyberdark Realm is a continuous spell card equally overloaded with effects as the rest of the other support. Starting with its least important effect, Cyberdark Realm allows your Cyberdark monsters to also equip from your opponent's graveyard on top of your own. This effect will only come up in extremely niche situations given how specific the Cyberdark equip effects are, but in those key matchups this effect can be quite killer, allowing you to rip monsters from your opponent's graveyard to empower your own. Moving on to the second most important effect, Cyberdark Realm allows you to, once per turn, normal summon an additional Cyberdark monster. This effect solves one of the major weaknesses of the Cyberdark deck, in that they were limited to 1 normal summon per turn. Through Realm you can normal summon an additional Cyberdark monster, which not only facilitates a second equip into a second beater, but also allows you to double up on bodies for making link plays with what would otherwise be bricky hands. Finally, when activated, Cyberdark Realm searches for any Cyberdark monster from your deck that does not share its name with a monster in your graveyard. This is by far the most important effect of this card. For starters, this card can search into both your Cyberdark Claw and your Cyberdark Cannon, both of which can grab you into the rest of your Cyberdark support, which essentially makes Cyberdark Realm a searcher for any Cyberdark card. Additionally, because Cyberdark Realm is a Cyberdark spell card, it can also be searched by your Cyberdark Claw. Assuming you were to activate Cyberdark Realm the turn you search it with Cyberdark Claw, Cyberdark Realm can then get you into your Cyberdark Cannon, which in turn can grab you into any other Cyberdark monster. This bridges the gap between all three of these cards, allowing the deck to make use of all three to set up your graveyard and hand for all your basic Cyberdark equip plays. Moving on from there, we have the aforementioned 3 Cyberdark Horizon. Based on the core set of the same name, but also treating itself as a Cyberdark card, Cyberdark Horizon has one really powerful effect that we will break down into 3 parts. The first is its cost. To activate Cyberdark Horizon, you must send a Cyber Machine or Dragon type monster from both your hand and your deck of differing attributes. Now, because this is done as a cost and not as part of the effect, it means that regardless of whether your opponent stops this card, you will always be guaranteed a free Foolish Burial and discard of a Cyberdark monster. And that does wonders for helping you load up your graveyard with the right monsters for your Cyberdark plays. For example, if you were to open a Cyberdark monster, you can use Horizon to send it an Armored Cybern to the graveyard, ensuring you have at least a 3k normal summon. However, if you were to open the Armored Cybern, you can send it from your hand to send a Cyberdark monster from your deck instead. And if that sent monster was a Cyberdark Chimera, you can use Cyberdark Chimera's effect to then load up your graveyard with another Cyberdark monster of your choice, thus allowing you to easily fill up your graveyard with a number of equip options for your original Cyberdark monsters. Moving on to Cyberdark Horizon's actual effect, if Cyberdark Horizon was to successfully resolve unimpeded, you can add one Cyber Machine or Dragon monster from your deck to your hand. This part of the effect essentially acts as a 4th searcher for the deck, giving you a total of 12 different search cards to work with. Like Cyberdark Realm, this card can add both Cyberdark Claw and Cyberdark Cannon, of which both can search into the rest of your Cyberdark cards. Furthermore, because Cyberdark Horizon also treats itself as a Cyberdark card, it too can be searched off of your Cyberdark Claw. Finally, wrapping this explanation up with the last part of Cyberdark Horizon's effect, in addition to the search, Cyberdark Horizon also gives you the option to send a Cyber Machine fusion monster from your X deck to the graveyard. This effect, while generally inconsequential, does set you up for certain fusion plays. At simplest, you can send a Cyber End Dragon to be equipped by a Cyber Darkness Dragon to make your Cyberdark End Dragon. Alternatively, you can send a Cyber Dark Dragon of yourself, of which you can hard make the Cyber End Dragon, or use as another name for making your Cyber Darkness Dragon. Wrapping up our Cyberdark spells, we have 2 of our field spells, Cyberdark Inferno. Released in Legendary Duelist, Cyberdark Inferno has 3 effects which are all extremely relevant. The first is that while face up on the field, Cyberdark Inferno protects all your Cyberdark monsters equipped with an equip card from being targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects. The second is that once per turn, Cyberdark Inferno can target one Cyberdark monster on your field, return it to your hand, and then allow you to additionally normal summon a Cyberdark monster. The last is that if destroyed, Cyberdark Inferno can add one fusion spell from the deck to your hand. Believe it or not, Cyberdark Inferno is actually the most important card in the Cyberdark deck. Breaking down the uses of each effect, the first effect effectively covers up the largest weakness of the Cyberdark monsters, in that they only protected themselves by battle and not by card effects. While equipped, all your Cyberdark monsters under Cyberdark Inferno become nigh impenetrable juggernauts resistant to most forms of removal. Since your Cyberdarks cannot be conventionally removed by card effects, and they can at least be protected by battle once, Cyberdark Inferno forces your opponent to prioritize on removing these Cyberdark equip spells to get to your monsters. This only plays into your strategy as it allows you to make more active use of your equipment floating effects to set yourself up for another Cyberdark play to slowly outgrind your opponent. Moving on to the second effect of Cyberdark Inferno has 2 applications. The first is as a means of refreshing a Cyberdark monster. Whether your Cyberdark monster has lost its equip or you have equipped the wrong monster, Cyberdark Inferno allows you to bounce that monster back to resummon it again to trigger its equip once more. This once again fixes another one of Cyberdark's weaknesses in that they can only equip on normal summon, Through Inferno, you essentially get 2 chances to normal summon the same Cyberdark monster, allowing you to make much more use out of a single monster. This in turn brings us to the second application of this effect, allowing our Cyberdarks resilience against negation. Since Inferno only protects our Cyberdarks while they are equipped, the common point of weakness is at the moment of the equip itself. Thus, our opponent will most likely attempt to negate the effect to equip to prevent all the benefits our Cyberdark monsters could reap from it. Inferno in turn allows us a second chance, providing the means to bounce back the negated Cyberdark monster to summon it again and attempt to equip again. Granted our opponent is only rocking the average 1 hand trap response, Cyberdark Inferno effectively invalidates a singular negation, forcing our opponent to burn much more resources to keep our Cyberdarks off of their equips. Finally, ending on the last effect, the ability to search into any fusion spell upon destruction allows us to seamlessly transition from a slow grind game into a more aggressive push. Given the benefits Inferno provides, it is to be expected that our opponent will attempt to remove it from the field. The hope is that by that point you have amassed sufficient graveyard setup such that Inferno can search into your Overload fusion to then allow you to go for game. Since under Inferno you can at least hope for 1 or 2 turns of protection, you can use those turns to fill up your graveyard with the monsters necessary for Overload to go into your game enders in Cyberdark End-Dragon and Cyberdarkness Dragon. This option in turn acts as a deterrent against Inferno's removal, forcing your opponent to pick between playing under Inferno or playing under the threat of an OTK. Finally, wrapping things up with the remainder of our spells, we have the 1 Power Bond to be searched off of our Cyberdark Chimera, the 1 Overload Fusion to be searched off of our Cyberdark Inferno, 3 Pot of Prosperity, as well as 2 Pot of Duality. Given how crucial it is to see cards like Inferno, Realm, or Horizon to get you started, we're maxing out on cards that allow us to dig for them. Prosperity naturally synergizes with the deck given how rarely we will be accessing our X deck, while Duality seldom impacts our deck given how normal summon focused it is. The combination of both allows us to see 9 cards deep into our deck to grab all the necessary pieces we need to armor up against our opponent's plays. Then we also have 3 Forbidden Droplets. Outside of being just a fantastic negation card going first or second, Droplets also has a few cool synergies with the deck. Not only can you send your Cyberdark equips as fodder for Droplets effect, but because Droplets checks the original type of the cards it sends, sending these monster equips also prevents your opponent from responding with monster effects. Furthermore, as an interesting interaction, if Droplets were to simultaneously send both the Cyberdark equip and the equipped Cyberdark monster itself, the equip would still recognize it being sent while equipped to activate its floating effect, allowing you to recover advantage regardless of what you send. Wrapping up the main deck, we move on to the traps, of which we play a few. As always, we have the 3 Infinite Permanents included in the deck for multi-purpose generic effect negation, but the real value of the traps comes in the form of our Floodgates, of which we're playing 3 Summon Limit, 2 There Can Only Be 1, and 1 Shaddoll Schism. Now as a disclaimer, I did not want to go this route. Personally, I find generic Floodgates to be a very cheap out to proper deck building. However, when it comes to a deck like Cyberdarks, I found that I was hard pressed to find better options. See, despite all the legacy support given to this archetype, Cyberdarks unfortunately suffer from the same problem many legacy archetypes struggle with, being strategically power crept. Try as Konami may to coat the archetype in a fresh new coat of consistency paint, it still remains a fact that you are playing the same basic equip strategy that existed back when Cyberdarks first came out, a strategy that was already slow for that time. As a result, the only way for Cyberdarks to reasonably compare against anything released in this modern time would be to slow the playing speed of every other deck to a standstill, and our Floodgates allow us to do that. Summon Limit works fantastically for the deck, especially since the only times we would summon twice is to resummon a Cyberdark monster or to summon our Golden Lord. There Can Be Only One also works because the deck will often only commit 1 Cyberdark at a time, and at worst an additional Golden Lord. Finally, Schism has natural synergy with our Cyberdark Claw, who can send an App Cologne from our X deck to search into it, and can be banished alongside the sent App Cologne to make a window. Worst comes to worst, we can use our Golden Lord to turn these Floodgates off at any point if we want to commit further, But until we do, we can rest assured that our opponent will be unable to extend far enough to threaten our board, thus giving us more time to really set up. Going into the X deck, we start with the one Cyberdark Dragon. Cyberdark Dragon is a level 8 fusion monster that can be fusion summoned using our Cyberdark Edge, Horn, and Keel. In fact, that's the only reason why we're playing all 3 Cyberdark monsters. Like its material, Cyberdark Dragon can target and equip a dragon type monster when summoned to gain attack and protection. However, unlike its materials, Cyberdark Dragon can equip any dragon from your graveyard. Furthermore, Cyberdark Dragon also gains an additional 100 attack points for each monster in your graveyard. Now, thanks to its ironically easier summoning requirements relative to our other boss monsters, Cyberdark Dragon serves as our intermediary boss monster. And thanks to being able to equip any dragon, Cyberdark Dragon can easily gain massive attack by equipping something like a 5-headed dragon. Combined with its additional attack boosting effect in conjunction with the deck's natural affinity to dumping monsters, it's very easy to put out a 7,000 plus Cyberdark Dragon to end games with. But beyond that, Cyberdark Dragon also serves as a material for our other boss monsters, meaning that even without access to him, we can send Cyberdark Dragon to the graveyard with cards like our Cyberdark Horizon or Cyberdark Claw to fuel our other plays. Moving on from there, we have our one Cyberdarkness Dragon. Requiring 5 Cyberdark effect monsters to make, Cyberdarkness Dragon is both easier and harder to summon compared to Cyberdark Dragon. Like Cyberdark Dragon, Cyberdarkness Dragon can also equip dragons from the graveyard on summon. But unlike Cyberdark Dragon, Cyberdarkness Dragon can also equip machines as well, and can do so when special summoned instead of only when fusion summoned. Furthermore, Cyberdarkness Dragon also comes packing with an Omni Negate, being able to negate any activated card or effect so long as it can send an equipped card to the graveyard. Now, because of its rather costly summoning conditions, you will almost be always summoning Cyberdarkness Dragon using your graveyard through Overload Fusion or through Cyberdark Chimera's effect. But even before getting to that point, you will most likely have to give a few turns to set up the necessary conditions to make full use of him. But if you could tough it out to get to that point, the benefits of summoning Cyberdarkness Dragon is high. Because Cyberdarkness Dragon can equip any dragon or machine, it can equip options like your Cyber End Dragon, which can be set up through your Cybernetic Horizon. More importantly though, because its negate is not once per turn, nor does it specify it must send equip cards equipped to it, Cyberdarkness Dragon makes great use out of all the equip mechanics your deck can churn out. By summoning other Cyberdark monsters while Cyberdarkness is on the field, you can load up your board with a bunch of equipped beaters that also function as ammo for an Omni Negate. Then factoring in cards like our Armored Cybern as well, it's very easy to stabilize on a board of 3 to 4 negates on Cyberdarkness to lock your opponent out of almost any play they might try to do. Then, capping off our boss monsters, we have the one Cyberdark End Dragon. Cyberdark End Dragon is a level 10 Dark Machine fusion monster with a whopping 5,000 points of attack. Requiring a Cyberdark and a Cyber End Dragon to make, Cyberdark End Dragon is unaffected by all of your opponent's activated effects. Furthermore, once per turn, Cyberdark End Dragon can target a monster in either graveyard and equip it to itself, increasing its maximum number of attacks relative to the number of monsters it has equipped. Rocking a staggering amount of base attack and absolute immunity against your opponent's activated effects, Cyberdark End Dragon is an absolute unit of a monster. Now, getting the necessary materials to make Cyberdark End Dragon may be a little tough, but fortunately Cyberdark End Dragon also has an additional summoning method. Instead of having to fusion summon it, you can also summon Cyberdark End Dragon by tributing a level 10 or lower Cyberdark fusion monster equipped with Cyber End Dragon. This leaves you with 2 ways to summon this card. At a basic level, you can summon Cyberdark End Dragon by actually fusing a Cyberdark and Cyber End Dragon. This can be easily accomplished in the same way you would summon Cyberdarkness Dragon, using Overload Fusion or Cyberdark Chimera's effect to fuse the materials from the graveyard. Alternatively, you can also tribute a Cyberdarkness Dragon equipped with a Cyber End Dragon. Regardless of which way you summon it though, with 5,000 attack and a potential to increase its number of attacks, Cyberdark Dragon is very much the deck's absolute game ender, able to attack for game under Power Bond with very little your opponent can do about it. Then, wrapping up the rest of our X deck, we have 2 Elder Antithesis to be sent by our Claw for removal, 1 App Clone to be sent by our Claw to search our Schism, 2 Winda to be summoned off of our Schism, 1 Predaplant Chimera Rafflesia to be sent by our Claw as an alternative way to search into Overload Fusion, 1 Cyber End Dragon to be equipped by our Cyber Darkness Dragon, 1 Almirage to link our Cyberdark monsters into, 1 Verti Anaconda to send and copy Overload Fusion, 1 Fair-G to be sent by our Claw for a simple cycle, 1 5-headed Dragon to be equipped by our Cyberdark Dragon, and 1 Omega for recycling. And that's going to do it for our Cyberdark deck profile. So what are my thoughts on the new support? Well, in a vacuum, these cards are very strong. Very few archetypes are given a foolish burial into a Rhoda, or a Rhoda into a double summon, and even fewer archetypes are given as powerful of a boss monster as Cyberdark End Dragon. With that being said though, the archetype is definitely not competitive, but perhaps that was never the support's intention. I think to many Cyberdarks are a fan favorite. With a very cool design and a very interesting concept, Cyberdarks have always been the pipe dream of many to be playable. And that dream is very likely what got Cyberdarks to the top of that poll to finally see its day. So to all you Cyberdark fans out there, this one's for you. Dream on, get your game on, and enjoy tasing your balls on, I guess. Regardless, this has been Tony, your deck architect, with a Cyberdark deck profile. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time.